Every great leader knows that the way you communicate can make or break your influence. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it, the authority in your words, the clarity in your ideas, and the presence you carry in every conversation. Imagine commanding attention, inspiring commitment, and guiding teams effortlessly, all through the power of your voice and presence. This video dives deep into the strategies that transform ordinary communication into extraordinary leadership, showing you practical ways to speak, influence, and lead with confidence every single day. Get ready to elevate your impact. Number 1. Craft decisive language for confident authority. Words shape how others see the world and how you move through it. The way language is carried, tone, timing, and choice decides whether a sentence opens a door or leaves it closed. To speak with confident authority, begin by treating speech as action. Speaking is not decoration. It is the simplest form of leadership that everyone around you experiences first. When language becomes decisive, people know where they stand, energy focuses, and momentum follows. That is the practical power of mastering decisive language. Start with one essential truth. Clarity is an act of respect. When a leader speaks clearly, listeners do less guessing and more doing. Clear speech conserves attention, reduces friction, and creates trust. To make this real, practice 3 short rules every day. Choose the verb first. Remove hedges. Close with intent. For example, instead of saying, "I think we might want to possibly delay the meeting," say, "We will move the meeting to Friday." The first sentence invites confusion. The second sets a boundary and gives people permission to plan. Actionable habit. When preparing to speak, take 10 seconds to name the core verb of your sentence. Decide whether you will ask, assign, commit, defer, or summarize. That choice will shape the rest of the sentence. Voice and breath anchor authority. Holding steady breath before speaking slows the rush of ideas and helps words land with weight. A simple practice transforms nervous rambling into calm command. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold for 2 counts. Exhale and speak. That pause recalibrates your body and gives the audience a moment to receive you. Sensory detail matters. Feel the chair beneath you. Sense the cool of air in your throat. Notice the pulse along your wrist. These small anchors keep words steady and intention. Actionable exercise. Before any important statement, breathe with purpose once, then speak 1 sentence only. If more is needed, breathe again and continue. That 1 sentence discipline forces economy of language and eliminates verbal drift. Decisive language is precise language. Replace vague quantifiers with specifics. Soon becomes by Tuesday 5 p.m. Some feedback becomes 3 points of feedback. This precision removes guesswork. Make a list of commonly vague phrases you use. Words like maybe, probably, soon, sort of, try, and deliberately banish them for a week. Track the change. Leaders who speak precisely are treated as reliable. Real-world application. When delegating a task, write or say the task, the expected result, and the deadline. For example, draft the 2-page summary on Q4 marketing by Thursday noon. I will review Friday morning. This small structure eliminates back and forth and frees cognitive energy for execution. Tone balances authority with empathy. Decisive language does not require harshness. It requires discipline. Say the truth with dignity. A voice that is too soft dissolves boundaries. A voice that is too sharp creates resistance. Find the middle by prioritizing facts and outcomes over personalities. Use short factual statements to open and a concise rationale to follow. For instance, we will reduce the budget by 10%. This preserves runway for core projects. Sensory cue. Imagine speaking with the warmth of a steady flame, visible, contained, and focused. Practical drill. Practice delivering directives in 3 tones, steady, warm, and firm. Record them, and choose the one that elicits cooperation rather than compliance. Hedges and qualifiers are authority's erosion. Words like kind of, I guess, maybe, and probably sound harmless, but they invite doubt. Replace hedges with either a clear commitment or an honest uncertainty. If an answer is unknown, say, "I do not have that figure right now. I will get it by this afternoon." That statement preserves credibility because it replaces vague hedging with a timeline and ownership. Actionable script bank. Convert common hedges into decisive alternatives. Example conversions. I think we should. We will. I might be wrong. I do not have the data yet. Can we try to? Plan A. Action. Plan B. Fallback. Structure speech. To drive action. Leaders do not talk to be heard. They talk to move things forward. Adopt the three-part rule for any important message. State the decision, give a short reason, and specify the next step. This is not formulaic, it is a fish example. We will launch on October 10th. The pilot showed higher retention. Prepare the launch checklist by Friday. That sequence persuades because it answers three questions every listener has. What, why, and what next? Use this template in meetings, emails, and one-on-one. Actionable task. Before every meeting, write the 3 lines you will speak if asked for a summary. Use them as anchors to keep conversation on track. Silence is part of language. Strategic pauses amplify what you say. A pause after a key sentence gives others time to absorb and respond. Do not rush to fill silence with extra words. That instinct often weakens clarity. Instead, pause for 2 to 4 seconds after a request or decision. Watch for faces, posture shifts, the catch of breath. Those are cues of engagement. Real-world application. When giving feedback, state the observation, pause, allow reaction, then state the impact and next step. This rhythm makes feedback felt and understood without defensive deflection. Words must match actions. Decisive language without follow-through becomes cheap. Commit publicly and act privately to build integrity. Small, consistent follow-through compounds credibility. If a habit is inconsistent, recalibrate the language used. For example, rather than promising, "I will try to get that done," say, "I will deliver that by Monday." If delivery fails, own it. That did not arrive on schedule. New date, Wednesday, and here are steps I took. Owning failure with a plan restores trust faster than excuses. Actionable habit. After each commitment, place a reminder in a system and review it daily until completion. The body of work behind the words is the true currency of leadership. Stories and metaphors must serve clarity, not ornament. Short, grounded metaphors can anchor a point. This project is a bridge, not a tunnel. But long narratives dilute urgency. Use sensory details sparingly to make messages memorable. Name a smell, a sound, or a tactile image that relates directly to the decision. For instance, think of this quarter like tightening the sail. It will pull us forward, not hold us. That image gives a tactile sense of movement and effort. Practice condensing stories to one sentence that supports action. If it cannot be said in a sentence, the story is probably unnecessary. Language that builds trust emphasizes responsibility, not blame. When things go wrong, frame language to solve rather than shaming. Replace "who made this mistake" with "what happened" and "how do we fix it." This shifts energy from accusation to learn. Offer corrective language templates. Observation, X happened. Impact, Y. Next step, Z. Use these in team retro meetings. This practice fosters psychological safety and invites ownership. Daily drills turn principles into muscle memory. Commit to 2 practices every morning and 2 every evening. Morning, read aloud 3 intentional statements you want to make that day, focusing on verbs and outcomes. Do this standing, speak slowly, and feel the breath. Evening, review 2 statements you made that day, one that landed well and one that did not. Write a 1-line revision of the failed statement and how it will be said differently tomorrow. Weekly, record a 5-minute summary of what the team achieved and what will happen next. Review and edit until the summary is 3 sentences. These small rituals force clarity and build confidence. Words are instruments of control. Control what you can and accept what you cannot. Stoic discipline means focusing on the quality of your language because it is within your power. You cannot control every reaction, but you can control what you say and how you prepare. When stress rises, return to the basic mechanics: breath, verb choice, specificity, and closing intent. Over time, these mechanics become intuitive. People will feel steadier around you because your words predictable. Create a stable environment. Finish every important conversation with a closing line that anchors responsibility. A simple template: summary, decision, owner, name, deadline, date, time. That final line converts talk into a traceable action. It is the single most practical habit to implement. It forces agreements out of ambiguity and sets up accountability without drama. Confidence in speech is built, not given. Practice, fail, and refine in small settings before the larger stage. Embrace pauses, choose verbs, banish hedges, and match words with actions. When language is decisive, it becomes a steady hearth around which others gather. Warmth without flicker, purpose without chaos. Speak with clarity today, and watch how small shifts in language change what is possible tomorrow. Number 2, command rooms through intentional word choices. The way a person speaks can fill a room with energy, focus, and movement, or it can leave it flat and aimless. Commanding a room is not about volume, intimidation, or dominance. It is about intentional word choices that guide attention, shape behavior, and establish presence. Each word acts as a lever, and the way it is deployed determines whether people feel clarity and motivation, or confusion and hesitation. To command effectively, language must carry authority, precision, and rhythm that invites people to follow not because they are forced, but because they are aligned. Begin by understanding the weight of each word before it leaves your mouth. Words are not interchangeable. They convey values, priorities, and expectations. Consider the difference between "we could consider changing the process" and "we will adjust the process to improve efficiency." One invites doubt, while the other communicates certainty and initiative. This is not simply about being assertive. It is about providing a linguistic structure that creates certainty. People notice subtle cues in language: the verbs chosen, the adjectives deployed, and the syntax of a sentence. Every choice signals confidence and competence. Intentional word choices begin with preparation. Before entering any room, physical or virtual, know the outcomes you want to achieve. Decide on 3 to 5 key messages and think about the words that will best convey them. Avoid filler words and casual qualifiers that dilute meaning. Each word should carry purpose, like stepping stones that guide others toward understanding and action. Visualize the space and the people you will address. This primes your mind to speak with direction. Practical habit. Before any meeting, write down the one-sentence summary of your key point for each topic. Speak from that foundation, not from instinct alone. The tone of language matters as much as the words themselves. A steady, calm, measured tone signals control and thoughtfulness, even when the topic is urgent or contentious. Fast, erratic, or overly emotional speech undermines authority, no matter how clever the words are. Intentional word choices include matching the pace of speech with the weight of the content. A significant point is reinforced when spoken slowly and deliberately, while less critical points can be delivered with lighter rhythm. Sensory focus helps. Feel your chest expand with each inhalation. Notice the resonance in your throat, and let your voice fill the space naturally. Physical awareness and vocal control amplify the command of words. Commanding a room also relies on strategic emphasis. Not every word carries equal weight. Learn to highlight the essential and reduce the peripheral. Place emphasis on nouns and verbs that represent action and results. For example, saying "deliver the report by Wednesday" places attention squarely on the deliverable and the timeline, rather than hedging or diluting with extraneous context. Practice pausing before key words to create anticipation and focus. This method allows your language to guide attention subconsciously, shaping the listener's perception and response. Intentional word choice also involves reframing the narrative in real time. Leaders who can articulate a challenge without panic, redirect a tangent without offense, and inspire focus without coercion demonstrate mastery. Replace vague terms with precise language that identifies responsibility and next steps. If a project is delayed, say, "The client presentation will move to Thursday. John will lead the preparation, and Sarah will compile the data by Wednesday evening." This removes ambiguity, prevents idle speculation, and ensures everyone knows exactly what to do. The clarity of language is a signal of leadership in action. Visual imagery through words is another tool for commanding presence. People absorb stories and images faster than abstract facts, but these must be concise and purposeful. For instance, saying, "Think of this strategy as a bridge connecting where we are to where we need to be," provides an immediate, tangible framework that clarifies intent and direction. Avoid long-winded metaphors that confuse. One crisp image is worth paragraphs of vague explanation. Words paired with mental imagery anchor understanding, making your leadership tangible and memorable. Listening is part of commanding through language. Intentional word choice does not exist in a vacuum. A leader must attune to the responses, both verbal and nonverbal, and adapt language accordingly. This is active calibration, noticing hesitation, confusion, or agreement, then selecting words that guide toward resolution or reinforcement. For example, if a point seems unclear, reframe it with different descriptors rather than repeating the same phrase. Actionable exercise. After each discussion, note which words prompted clarity or confusion. Adjust phrasing in future interactions for maximal impact. Questions are powerful instruments for guiding attention. The words used in questions shape focus and direction. Open-ended questions can explore and engage, but overly broad phrasing can scatter energy. Narrow, intentional questions steer thought and action. Instead of asking, "What do you think about the project?" which invites unfocused commentary, ask which steps in the project can be completed by Friday to stay on track. This sets boundaries while encouraging participation. The room responds to questions that are purposeful, actionable, and structured. They invite solutions, not meandering discussion. Command through repetition and consistency of language. Reinforce essential points using consistent terminology to avoid cognitive drift. Words gain weight when repeated intentionally across meetings, memos, and casual remarks. If a leader uses the phrase "maintain alignment" consistently, it signals a value and expectation. In contrast, inconsistent phrasing breeds ambiguity and erodes trust. Maintain a word bank of terms and phrases that encapsulate your principles and goals, and deploy them with discipline. This practice aligns collective focus and builds a linguistic foundation for authority. Energy management complements intentional word choice. A leader who speaks in a monotone, regardless of word selection, will fail to command attention. Modulate pitch, pace, and inflection to reflect the significance of the content. Words should carry vitality. Language that feels lifeless fails to engage. Practice reading key statements aloud with variations in energy and tone, noting which version elicits attention and respect. The combination of precise words, rhythmic delivery, and vocal vitality shapes presence in a way that draws focus and cooperation naturally. Language that commands also builds alignment without fear. Authority is not about intimidation, it is about direction. Use words to clarify shared objectives, define boundaries, and empower others to act. Replace abstract calls with concrete, actionable guidance. Our goal is 15% growth next quarter. Marketing will create the campaign by Wednesday. Sales will follow up with clients by Friday. This approach translates ambition into executable steps, giving listeners clarity, confidence, and purpose. Nonverbal reinforcement amplifies intentional word choice. Gestures, posture, and eye contact are part of the language that fills a room. A declarative sentence, accompanied by a steady stance, open hands, and direct gaze, signals conviction and inclusion. Words and body together communicate authority more powerfully than either alone. Practice coordinating vocal delivery with subtle, controlled movements that reinforce rather than distract. This integration of speech and presence ensures that words land with maximum impact. Finally, reflection and refinement are essential. Commanding a room through intentional language is not innate. It is cultivated through observation, trial, and feedback. After each significant interaction, reflect on which words directed attention, which inspired action, and which caused ambiguity. Write and rehearse key phrases. Over time, these adjustments compound, creating language that is precise, deliberate, and magnetic. Consistency in this practice builds the kind of presence that does not demand attention, but naturally draws it. Commanding a room is the art of alignment, aligning words with thought, intent with action, and presence with energy. Every utterance becomes an instrument of influence when chosen with care, spoken with clarity, and reinforced with action. Words guide, inspire, and mobilize. They bridge vision with execution. Mastery comes not from speaking more, but from speaking deliberately, choosing each word as a tool to shape understanding and propel movement. A leader who controls language controls impact. Intentionality transforms speech from mere sound into an instrument of authority and change. Number 3. Develop clarity that eliminates communication friction. Communication is one of the most underrated tools of leadership. Misunderstandings, assumptions, and vague instructions are silent barriers that slow progress and erode trust. Developing clarity in speech and writing removes these barriers and creates momentum. When words are precise, intentional, and easy to follow, people act with confidence, and the space around you hums with efficiency. Clarity is not merely about simplifying. It is about designing communication so that it flows naturally, reducing resistance, and eliminating unnecessary friction between intention and understanding. Start by recognizing where friction arises. Conversations stall when expectations are ambiguous, jargon obscures meaning, or ideas are buried under unnecessary detail. The first step to clarity is observation. Note instances where people ask for repetition, hesitate, or misinterpret instructions. These are friction points. Make a habit of writing down 3 moments each day when communication broke down or slowed action. This creates awareness and allows targeted improvements. Once identified, replace vague statements with exact, actionable language. Every phrase should either inform, direct, or facilitate action. Brevity is a tool for clarity, but it must be purposeful. Cutting words indiscriminately can confuse as much as it can clarify. Focus on removing redundant phrases, filler words, and qualifiers that blur meaning. Replace them with concrete terms that specify action, timing, and responsibility. Instead of saying, "Let's try to get this done soon," say, "Complete this report by Thursday 5 p.m. and send it to me for review." One statement removes guesswork and aligns everyone toward the same outcome. Daily practice. Pick 3 emails or conversations and rewrite them for maximal clarity, keeping only words that contribute directly to understanding. Clarity is amplified when the structure of communication mirrors the logic of action. People process information more effectively when it follows a natural sequence. Context, action. Begin with why a topic matters, then state what needs to happen, and finish with how it affects the team or outcome. This approach removes cognitive load, allowing listeners to focus on execution instead of interpretation. For example, the quarterly report highlights declining engagement. Update the client engagement plan by Friday to address gaps. This ensures our marketing metrics improve next month. Each part connects logically, creating a seamless path from insight to action. Active listening is an essential counterpart to clear expression. Friction often arises not just from what is said, but from what is not heard. Pay attention to verbal cues, questions, and pauses. Respond to the actual concerns expressed rather than assuming understanding. Paraphrasing what someone has said and confirming alignment ensures both parties share the same understanding. A practical habit. After receiving instructions or requests, repeat back in your own words what you heard and confirm accuracy. This habit eliminates hidden misunderstandings before they turn into friction points. Visual clarity strengthens verbal and written communication. Humans process visuals faster than text alone. When explaining processes, data, or plans, use diagrams, timelines, or bullet points to anchor understanding. A well-structured chart or table often conveys in seconds what paragraphs cannot. Actionable method. Before sending complex communication, review it and ask, could this be represented visually for faster comprehension? The answer often reveals opportunities to reduce friction and enhance alignment. Consistency of terminology prevents confusion over time. Using multiple words for the same concept generates cognitive load and slows collective understanding. Standardize language around key processes, roles, and objectives. For example, if the term client onboarding is used, avoid alternate phrases like customer induction or new user setup unless absolutely necessary. Intentional consistency builds mental shortcuts in teams, reducing friction in communication and accelerating collaboration. Create a reference sheet of terms for yourself and your team to reinforce this habit. Precision in assigning responsibility is central to clarity. Ambiguity about ownership is a common source of friction. Every instruction should name the person responsible and clarify expectations. Instead of "the report needs updating," specify "Maria will update the report by Wednesday afternoon," and circulate it to the leadership team. Naming responsibility removes hesitation and prevents diffusion of accountability. Daily exercise. When giving directions, always include a clear owner and deadline. Over time, this habit builds a culture where people understand expectations without needing constant clarification. Timing and sequencing in communication also reduce friction. Deliver information when it is most actionable, not when it is convenient to share. Providing instructions too early can create confusion, while sharing too late creates bottlenecks. Map out key milestones and align communication with decision points. Real-world application. For a project with multiple dependencies, provide updates and assignments aligned with the timeline so that each person knows exactly what to do next. This synchrony reduces missteps and prevents last-minute scrambles that create stress and misalignment. Anticipating questions is another strategy for eliminating friction. Consider what the audience might misunderstand or require clarification on, and preemptively provide answers. This does not mean over-explaining, but rather offering context, examples, or constraints that prevent misinterpretation. For instance, submit the draft by Thursday 3 p.m. using the client's template from the shared drive. This ensures uniformity and speeds approval, including key context, reduces the need for follow-up clarification, and allows work to proceed smoothly. Language simplicity enhances mental bandwidth for others. Avoid unnecessary jargon, acronyms, or technical terms unless everyone in the room understands them. Even common phrases can carry different interpretations across departments or cultures. Choose words that convey meaning without forcing listeners to decode. Regularly audit your speech and writing for clarity, replacing confusing terms with straightforward alternatives. Practical habit. When preparing communication, ask yourself, would someone outside my team fully understand this without explanation? If the answer is no, simplify further. Feedback loops strengthen clarity over time. Ask whether your message was understood and acted upon as intended. Create a culture where questions are encouraged and responses are precise. Misalignment is often a product of assuming understanding rather than confirming it. A simple routine. After presenting a plan or instruction, request a brief summary from participants of their understanding. This habit ensures friction points are revealed and corrected immediately, rather than accumulating unnoticed. Clarity is reinforced through repetition without monotony. Key ideas should be restated in different contexts or formats to ensure retention and understanding. Repeat the core message in meetings, emails, and updates, but adjust phrasing slightly to maintain engagement. This method reinforces comprehension without oversaturation. For example, a weekly team summary can restate objectives while providing new examples or progress metrics, making sure understanding evolves alongside execution. Physical presence and environment also support clarity. Noise, distractions, and poorly structured meetings increase friction regardless of language. Precision. Control what you can. Organize the environment, set clear agendas, and structure participation so that communication can flow without obstacles. When people are physically or mentally prepared to receive information, the words you choose land more effectively, reducing miscommunication and wasted energy. Finally, clarity is a mindset, not a single action. It requires deliberate attention to word choice, structure, timing, and feedback. Leaders who cultivate clarity reduce friction, accelerate execution, and foster trust. Clarity is not achieved by rushing, oversimplifying, or assuming understanding. It is created through conscious, repeated effort to make communication precise, actionable, and transparent. Each interaction is an opportunity to refine this skill, and over time it becomes a hallmark of influence and authority. By committing to clarity, leaders remove unnecessary obstacles, allow teams to move decisively, and create an environment where effort and intelligence flow freely toward meaningful outcomes. When communication is frictionless, energy is conserved, focus sharpens, and results multiply. Developing clarity transforms not only your ability to lead, but also the efficiency and cohesion of every team, conversation, and project you touch. It is the unseen engine that powers trust, alignment, and progress, and mastering it is one of the most practical, high-leverage actions a leader can take. Number 4. Use strategic pauses to amplify influence. Words are powerful, but the spaces between them often carry even more weight. Strategic pauses are not empty. They are instruments that shape perception, emphasize meaning, and create influence. Silence, when wielded with purpose, gives the listener time to absorb, reflect, and respond. It transforms speech from mere information into an experience that draws attention, builds authority, and commands respect. Every pause has potential. It can signal confidence, signal reflection, or signal that what follows deserves consideration. Learning to pause effectively is learning to lead with intention. A pause communicates presence. In a world flooded with constant noise and rapid responses, a deliberate pause signals calm, thoughtfulness, and self-control. When a leader stops before answering, before issuing instructions, or before sharing insight, it frames their words as important. The mind naturally assigns significance to a speaker who pauses with purpose. To cultivate this, practice breathing before speaking, feeling each inhalation and exhalation, and allowing a brief moment of stillness. This simple adjustment changes the way your words are received, making each sentence feel considered rather than reactive. Pauses enhance clarity. Rapid speech often overwhelms the listener, diluting critical points and increasing misunderstanding. Strategic pauses segment information into digestible parts, giving the audience time to internalize each idea. For example, in presenting a complex strategy, stop for 2 to 3 seconds after stating the main objective before detailing steps. That gap allows the brain to register the importance of the first statement before processing supporting information. By intentionally structuring speech with pauses, leaders prevent cognitive overload and foster retention of key messages. Timing of pauses carries nuance. A pause before a crucial point creates anticipation. A pause after delivers emphasis. Consider a situation where a difficult decision must be announced. Deliver the context, pause for reflection, then state the decision. This rhythm guides listeners through processing the information while underscoring the weight of the choice. Similarly, in negotiations, a pause after a proposal allows others to consider it carefully, often prompting concessions or clarifications without pressure. Pauses are subtle yet powerful levers of influence that shape behavior and perception without raising the volume or tension. Pauses also cultivate authority. People tend to fill silence with words, often revealing intentions, uncertainties, or agreement. A leader who pauses strategically demonstrates confidence and control over both the conversation and themselves. Silence conveys that you are deliberate, not impulsive, and that your words are chosen, not scattered. Practicing this requires mindfulness. Notice how long you typically speak before pausing and experiment with extending the interval slightly. Start with small adjustments, 1 to 2 seconds, and gradually lengthen. The presence of these gaps naturally commands respect and attention. The physical aspect of a pause amplifies its impact. Stand or sit with a grounded posture, maintain calm breathing, and hold a steady gaze. Avoid fidgeting, which undermines the authority of silence. The body communicates as much as words. When posture, eye contact, and breathing align with a pause, the effect is magnified. Listeners sense the coherence between words and presence, making your message more compelling. Daily practice. Rehearse a brief speech and consciously integrate pauses, observing how posture and breathing reinforce the weight of each sentence. Emotional resonance is enhanced through pauses. Delivering bad news, giving feedback, or inspiring action benefits from well-placed silence. Pauses allow the listener to process emotions, making them more receptive to reasoning or guidance. For instance, when acknowledging a team's mistake, state the observation, pause to allow reflection, and then articulate the next steps. This approach avoids defensive reactions and facilitates a constructive response. Pauses act as a bridge between intellect and emotion, allowing communication to penetrate more deeply. Pauses also structure conversations. Interruptions, tangents, and filler words create chaos, but deliberate pauses bring order. By introducing space, leaders control the flow, giving themselves time to think and others time to respond. A meeting where each speaker pauses before answering fosters reflection rather than knee-jerk reactions. Structured silence creates rhythm and expectation, subtly guiding interactions toward productive outcomes. One practical exercise is to consciously count 3 seconds before responding to questions, observing how it changes both your answers and the reactions of others. The interplay between pause and emphasis is crucial. Words that follow silence appear more potent. They become anchors in the listener's mind. This is particularly effective for highlighting critical points, delivering directives, or articulating values. For instance, stating, "Our priority for this quarter," followed by a 2-second pause before revealing the focus, creates weight and clarity. The brain treats this sequence as intentional, marking the subsequent information as important and worth attention. Strategic pauses therefore transform ordinary statements into compelling messages. Listening is inseparable from pausing. A pause is not just about speaking less, it is about creating space for understanding. During discussions, pauses give time to hear subtleties, detect unspoken concerns, and interpret reactions. Observing these cues allows leaders to respond thoughtfully, rather than reactively, improving decision-making and fostering trust. Practical habit. After someone speaks, count to 3 silently before responding. This brief interval enhances comprehension and positions your responses as intentional and insightful, rather than reflexive. Pauses reduce verbal clutter. Excessive talking can dilute authority and create fatigue. Silence sharpens focus and signals that your words are deliberate. By integrating pauses, leaders allow ideas to breathe and resonate. Begin with short intervals between sentences, gradually extending the length after impactful statements. Notice how silence allows questions, engagement, and reflection to surface naturally. Over time, this creates a communication style that feels measured, intentional, and influential without force or volume. Strategic pauses also support confidence in high-pressure situations. Public speaking, negotiations, and critical meetings often trigger anxiety that accelerates speech. Pauses counteract this tendency, allowing thought, control, and composure to surface. The listener interprets this calmness as mastery and credibility. Actionable drill. Practice delivering challenging statements aloud, deliberately pausing at key junctures. Record and review to refine timing and ensure that silence reinforces authority rather than hesitation. Pauses invite collaboration. In group settings, silence encourages others to contribute without feeling overridden. By stepping back briefly after asking a question or presenting an idea, leaders create room for voices to emerge, enhancing engagement and collective problem-solving. This does not weaken authority. It reinforces it by demonstrating confidence and respect for contributions. Habitual pause integration. Ask a question, count to 3 silently, then continue if no one responds. Often valuable input arises in the space created by intentional silence. Consistency in pausing cultivates anticipation. Over time, listeners begin to anticipate that important points will be emphasized through silence. This trains attention, turning each pause into a signal of significance. When used consistently, pauses become a rhythm that enhances clarity, focus, and persuasion. Practical exercise. Rehearse a daily briefing or presentation using deliberate pauses, noting which pauses amplify engagement, clarity, or action. Adjust as needed to create a natural cadence that reinforces authority. Pauses also refine storytelling. When conveying narratives, strategic breaks allow suspense, reflection, and absorption of lessons. Instead of rushing through events, pauses help the audience visualize, connect emotionally, and internalize meaning. For instance, recounting a success story can be punctuated with pauses after each milestone to let the impact settle. This transforms storytelling from entertainment into instruction and inspiration. Finally, mastery of pauses is mastery of influence. Words alone move minds, but silence moves hearts, attention, and perception. Pauses provide leverage. Every space becomes an amplifier of clarity, authority, and engagement. They create room for reflection, emphasize importance, and cultivate trust. Leaders who integrate deliberate pauses into daily communication transform ordinary interactions into commanding experiences, where each word lands with intent and every silence resonates with purpose. Over time, strategic pauses shape presence, sharpen influence, and elevate leadership into a practice that is both deliberate and magnetic. Number 5. Speak with structure that guides action. Every conversation carries the potential to inspire action, yet most discussions meander without producing tangible results. Speaking with structure is the difference between communication that motivates and communication that merely fills space. Structure organizes thoughts, aligns understanding, and converts ideas into behavior. It provides listeners with a roadmap, allowing them to act decisively without confusion or hesitation. Leaders who speak with structured intent turn abstract concepts into executable steps, shaping outcomes with clarity, authority, and purpose. Structure is not rigidity, it is a framework that ensures every word moves the audience closer to action. Start by recognizing that unstructured speech is a source of inefficiency. Rambling ideas, inconsistent sequencing, and incomplete explanations create hesitation, delay, and frustration. People often leave conversations uncertain about what to do next. Structure eliminates this gap by establishing a clear beginning, middle, and end for every message. Begin with the objective. State what the purpose of the conversation or statement is. For example, instead of saying, "We have a few things to consider about the marketing plan," frame it as, "Today we will finalize the marketing plan for the next quarter and assign responsibilities to each team member." The first statement opens a discussion. The second directs attention toward outcomes and action. Each communication should follow a logical progression. Present the situation or context, identify the desired result, and then outline the actionable steps. Context sets the stage, allowing others to understand the reasoning behind decisions. Desired results focus attention on priorities and expectations. Actionable steps provide clarity on how to achieve those results. By consistently following this sequence, you eliminate confusion and enable others to move efficiently. Habitually apply this structure in team meetings, email updates, and one-on-one conversations. Over time, your audience begins to anticipate and internalize the flow, increasing responsiveness and execution. Clarity in language is essential when guiding action. Avoid ambiguous terms that leave listeners guessing. Replace phrases like "handle this soon" or "try to get it done" with precise directives, such as "complete the budget review by Thursday 3 p.m. and submit it to the finance team." Precise instructions not only prevent miscommunication but also instill confidence in your team, as they know exactly what is expected and how to proceed. Daily practice, review your communication for vagueness, and refine every statement to include specific outcomes and responsible parties. Breaking information into segments helps maintain focus and facilitates action. Large, unbroken blocks of instruction overwhelm the mind and reduce retention. Divide complex information into steps, phases, or milestones. For instance, instead of presenting an entire project plan in one breath, segment it. Phase 1, research and data collection by Tuesday. Phase 2, draft proposal by Thursday. Phase 3, final review and submission by Friday. This approach provides listeners with manageable units, enabling them to act systematically rather than guessing which step comes next. Repetition reinforces structure. Key points should be stated multiple times using different phrasing or examples to ensure comprehension. Repetition is not filler. It anchors critical steps and expectations. Reinforce the same instruction verbally, visually in slides or documents, and through follow-up messages. For example, after assigning tasks, reiterate deadlines and ownership, then provide a summary email. This layering reduces friction and ensures that structure translates into consistent action. Strategic sequencing strengthens the path to execution. Arrange instructions in the order they should be carried out. Misordered steps create unnecessary delays and confusion. If multiple people or departments are involved, indicate the sequence of actions explicitly. For instance, the design team will complete the wireframe by Monday, then the content team will add copy by Wednesday, and the QA team will review by Thursday. Sequenced instructions guide action naturally, reducing dependency on repeated clarification and follow-up. Transitions matter. Unstructured speech often jumps abruptly between ideas, leaving the audience disoriented. Use transitions to signal shifts from one topic or step to another. Words such as next, following that, or once that is complete guide attention and maintain flow. This creates a narrative that people can follow effortlessly, keeping focus on tasks rather than mental juggling. A simple exercise: when outlining tasks, consciously use transition phrases to bridge each step, improving comprehension and execution. Feedback loops are a crucial element of structured communication. After delivering instructions, create a mechanism for confirmation and clarification. Ask team members to restate assignments or report progress at defined intervals. This ensures that the structured message has been understood and that execution aligns with intent. A structured feedback loop also identifies friction points before they escalate, maintaining momentum and preventing wasted effort. Incorporate this habit in meetings, project check-ins, and email threads to create accountability and clarity simultaneously. Language that signals ownership drives action. Use active verbs and assign responsibility clearly. Passive statements leave ambiguity, while active directives create accountability. Compare the report should be updated with Alex will update the report by Friday and circulate it to the team. The latter eliminates uncertainty and motivates action by explicitly linking the task to a person and a deadline. Develop a habit of reviewing communication for passivity and converting statements into active directives that guide behavior. Visualization enhances structured speech. People act more decisively when they can picture the steps and end results. Incorporate simple visual tools such as checklists, flowcharts, or progress trackers when communicating complex plans. For example, a 3-step flowchart for a client onboarding process makes responsibilities and timelines immediately visible. Visual aids complement verbal structure, reinforcing comprehension and improving execution. Practice. When preparing instructions, sketch a quick visual sequence that mirrors the steps and share it with your team to solidify understanding. Consistency in messaging reinforces structure over time. Regularly using structured formats in conversations, presentations, and reports sets expectations for how information is shared and absorbed. When people know the framework, they focus on content rather than figuring out how to interpret instructions. Over weeks, structured communication becomes intuitive for both the speaker and the audience, enabling faster decision-making and smoother action. Pauses are an integral complement to structured speech. Strategic silence allows the audience to process each step, reflect on responsibilities, and prepare for the next instruction. After outlining critical points, pause deliberately before moving on. This enhances comprehension, prevents information overload, and increases the likelihood of follow-through. Practice. After delivering each segment of a plan, count silently for 2 to 4 seconds, then proceed. This rhythm enforces absorption and positions your instructions as thoughtful and actionable. Storytelling can support structure, but only when it reinforces actionable steps. Use brief, relevant examples that illustrate how following a specific process leads to results. Avoid lengthy digression. For instance, when introducing a new workflow, share a short anecdote about a past project that succeeded because the steps were followed correctly. This links abstract instruction to concrete outcomes, increasing motivation and adherence. Finally, structured speech cultivates trust and confidence. When people consistently receive communication that is logical, precise, and actionable, they understand expectations clearly and feel empowered to act. Structure removes uncertainty, prevents wasted effort, and channels energy toward meaningful progress. Leaders who master this skill create environments where ideas translate into execution effortlessly, decisions are made decisively, and teams operate with cohesion and clarity. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to transform intention into action, shaping results through words that are organized, deliberate, and purposeful. Speaking with structure is not merely a skill, it is a form of leadership. Each sentence, each transition, each pause is an instrument guiding behavior. Structure ensures that communication is more than sound. It becomes a conduit for action, accountability, and achievement. By intentionally crafting speech that flows logically, segments information effectively, and emphasizes responsibility, leaders create momentum, inspire confidence, and ensure that their vision is realized in practical, measurable ways. Number 6. Build trust through consistent verbal integrity. Trust is the invisible currency that fuels influence, cooperation, and lasting leadership. Without it, even the most brilliant ideas falter, and the clearest instructions fall flat. Verbal integrity, the alignment between what is said and what is done, is the foundation of trust. People instinctively measure credibility not just by outcomes, but by the consistency of language. When words are reliable, follow-through is predictable, and intentions are clear, trust solidifies. Every interaction, from casual remarks to strategic directives, is an opportunity to reinforce integrity through careful, deliberate communication. Start with the principle that words are promises. Every statement carries implied commitment. Even casual comments create expectations. Saying, "I'll send that report soon," is a promise of future action. Failing to deliver undermines trust, even if the content of the work is ultimately correct. To build verbal integrity, cultivate awareness of the commitments embedded in every utterance. Think of speech as a chain. Each link must align with reality. Regularly audit your words to ensure that what is said matches what can and will be delivered. Consistency reinforces reliability. Sporadic accuracy or selective truth diminishes credibility. People notice patterns more than isolated events. Delivering on promises once builds temporary confidence. Repeating it over time establishes a reputation. Start with small daily actions. If you commit to sending an update by the end of the day, ensure it is done consistently. These micro practices accumulate, demonstrating that your words are dependable. Trust, once earned through repetition, allows for greater influence when more significant challenges arise. Clarity is inseparable from integrity. Vague language invites doubt and misinterpretation, even when intentions are honest. Replace ambiguous phrases with explicit, actionable statements. Instead of, "I'll handle this," say, "I will review the draft and provide feedback by 3 p.m. today." Clear statements reduce ambiguity, establish boundaries, and demonstrate accountability. People respect leaders who communicate transparently and provide a realistic picture of what will happen, rather than overstating or embellishing capabilities. Acknowledging uncertainty is a vital aspect of verbal integrity. Claiming certainty where none exists erodes trust faster than inaction. A simple statement like, "I don't have the final data yet, but I will provide it by noon," preserves credibility and signals responsibility. Leaders who admit gaps while committing to action gain respect rather than criticism. This honesty reinforces reliability because it creates a predictable rhythm. The listener knows that words are intentional, not conjectural. Practice this daily by honestly evaluating what you know and clearly communicating what remains uncertain. Follow-through transforms speech into action. Integrity is meaningless without tangible results. Promises must be accompanied by execution. People measure leaders by outcomes aligned with their words. Small lapses create disproportionate damage because the expectation is violated. One way to cultivate this habit is to maintain a simple tracking system of commitments, from minor tasks to major projects. Reviewing this list each day ensures that verbal promises are matched by real actions. Over time, this consistency strengthens reputation and reinforces trust. Tone and delivery influence perceived integrity. Words may be accurate, but if spoken hesitantly, evasively, or with inconsistency, they can signal unreliability. A steady, calm, and deliberate tone conveys confidence that what is said is intentional and dependable. Practice speaking with control, emphasizing key points with measured pauses. The combination of consistent tone and consistent action builds a perception of honesty and reliability, creating a magnetic presence that others instinctively trust. Active listening strengthens verbal integrity by demonstrating that words are responsive rather than empty. When people feel heard, your responses carry weight and credibility. Paraphrasing key points before committing to action ensures that your words address actual needs and align with expectations. This minimizes miscommunication and establishes a rhythm of accountability. Daily habit. Summarize discussions in your own words before outlining the next steps. This confirms alignment and signals that your words are grounded in comprehension, not assumption. Consistency in messaging prevents erosion of credibility. Frequent shifts in direction, contradictory statements, or unclear priorities confuse listeners and breed skepticism. Establish core principles and values in your communication and ensure that every statement reflects them. When changes are unavoidable, explain the reasoning transparently. For example, if a project deadline is adjusted, clarify why the change is necessary and what steps will follow to achieve the new goal. Consistency paired with transparency reinforces trust even in dynamic situations. Storytelling can support verbal integrity when used to illustrate real outcomes and experiences. Authentic narratives demonstrate how past promises were fulfilled, lessons were learned, and commitments were honored. Avoid embellishment or exaggeration, as these compromise credibility. Instead, share concise examples that showcase alignment between words and actions. Over time, these stories become proof points that reinforce your integrity, creating an aura of reliability and authority. Intentional repetition strengthens memory and reinforces expectations. Key commitments should be restated in different contexts, such as meetings, emails, and progress reports, ensuring alignment and minimizing misunderstanding. This structured reinforcement confirms that your words are not arbitrary but deliberate and actionable. Repetition, when combined with follow-through, builds a predictable pattern of reliability, reducing doubt and friction in team interaction. Acknowledging mistakes with transparency is a profound tool for trust. No one is flawless, but owning missteps demonstrates accountability. For instance, saying, "I missed the deadline on this task. Here is my plan to correct it," signals responsibility rather than avoidance. This honesty enhances credibility because it shows that words are backed by reflection, learning, and a commitment to future action. Leaders who consistently own their errors cultivate deeper trust than those who avoid accountability. Structured feedback amplifies verbal integrity. When giving guidance, focus on facts, impact, and actionable next steps. Avoid speculation, blame, or vagueness. For example, the report lacked data on X, which delayed decision-making. Please include this section by tomorrow to complete the review. Demonstrates precise observation and follow-up. Structured feedback signals that words are measured, intentional, and geared toward achieving results rather than empty critique. Verbal integrity extends to consistency across different channels. Whether in person, via email, over the phone, or on video calls, messages should align in tone, content, and commitments. Inconsistencies create friction, confusion, and erosion of trust. Maintain a clear communication standard that translates seamlessly across all mediums. Habit. Review messages for alignment with previously stated commitments before sending. This ensures reliability and preserves credibility across contexts. Mindfulness amplifies the impact of verbal integrity. Being fully present during conversations ensures that words are chosen carefully, promises are deliberate, and intentions are transparent. Avoid reactive speech or statements made under stress that may contradict previous commitments. Pausing before responding, reflecting on potential consequences, and aligning words with core principles create a pattern of reliable communication that strengthens trust over time. Language should reflect both capability and humility. Overpromising erodes trust faster than underpromising. Statements should balance confidence with realistic boundaries. For instance, "I will complete the initial draft by Wednesday. Additional adjustments may be required after review." Communicates both commitment and awareness of limitations. This balance demonstrates competence and honesty simultaneously, reinforcing credibility and reliability. Finally, verbal integrity is cumulative. Each interaction, no matter how small, contributes to a larger perception of reliability and trustworthiness. Over time, consistent alignment between words and actions transforms relationships, strengthens influence, and cultivates loyalty. Leaders who prioritize verbal integrity create an environment where promises are meaningful, communication is respected, and teams operate with confidence. Every deliberate statement builds a foundation that supports authority, inspires cooperation, and fosters enduring success. When words consistently match actions, trust becomes automatic rather than aspirational. People rely on leaders who have demonstrated reliability, knowing that promises are fulfilled, instructions are clear, and intentions are genuine. Building this trust through verbal integrity requires attention, discipline, and practice, but its impact compounds exponentially, enabling influence, alignment, and achievement to flow naturally through every interaction. Number 7. Simplify complex ideas into powerful messages. Ideas that are complex often get lost in translation. A brilliant concept may falter if it is tangled in jargon, over-explained, or buried under unnecessary detail. Leaders distinguish themselves not by how much they can say, but by how effectively they can distill complexity into clarity. Simplifying complicated ideas is not about dumbing them down. It is about removing noise, isolating the core, and packaging it in a way that is instantly understandable and actionable. The ability to convert intricate concepts into powerful, digestible messages amplifies influence, aligns teams, and accelerates results. Start by identifying the essence of the idea. Every complex topic contains a core truth, a central principle, or a key objective. Distinguishing this core from supporting details requires analytical rigor and focus. Ask yourself, if the audience could remember only one thing from this conversation, what should it be? Once identified, shape your communication around that single pivotal point. All supporting information should reinforce this central message, not distract from it. This focus creates a magnetic simplicity that engages attention and drives comprehension. Clarity begins with language choice. Avoid technical terms, acronyms, or abstract phrases unless they are essential and universally understood by the audience. Replace them with concrete, descriptive words that convey meaning instantly. For example, instead of saying, "Our vertical integration strategy will optimize supply chain synergies," say, "We will combine our production and delivery teams to work faster and reduce costs." Simple language preserves meaning while making it immediately actionable. Daily practice. Review written and spoken communication and replace complex phrases with clear, straightforward alternatives. Analogies and metaphors are powerful tools for simplification. A well-chosen analogy converts abstract ideas into familiar concepts. For instance, describing data security as a lock on the digital door instantly conveys the concept of protection and access control. Avoid overcomplicating analogies or using too many at once, which can create confusion. One strong, relatable metaphor is often more effective than paragraphs of explanation. Practice developing a library of simple analogies relevant to your field to make complex ideas accessible in real time. Chunking information reduces cognitive load. Breaking complex ideas into small, manageable units allows audiences to digest information without becoming overwhelmed. Present information in 3 to 5 segments, each reinforcing the central message. For example, when explaining a new process, describe the purpose, the steps, and the expected result as distinct, sequential points. Chunking organizes thought, maintains focus, and ensures that each piece of information contributes meaningfully to understanding. Storytelling transforms complexity into relatable lessons. Narrative anchors abstract concepts in human experience, creating both clarity and emotional resonance. Instead of listing technical specifications or procedural details, illustrate the principle through a short story. For instance, when explaining project efficiency, recount a situation where clear role assignment led to a successful outcome. Stories simplify learning by providing context, cause and effect, and memorable examples that encapsulate the essence of an idea. Visual representation reinforces simplification. Diagrams, charts, and infographics turn abstract or multifaceted information into immediate understanding. A process flow chart, a timeline, or a comparison chart can convey hours of explanation in seconds. Visual tools should focus on the essentials. Avoid clutter that undermines clarity. Habit. Before presenting any complicated concept, ask if a simple visual could replace or complement verbal explanation. Visuals anchor comprehension and create mental shortcuts that embed complex ideas more efficiently. Prioritize relevance. Not every detail of a complex idea is essential for immediate understanding or action. Distinguish between core information and peripheral details. Share only what is necessary to support the central message or decision. Overloading the audience with extraneous points generates confusion and delays execution. To practice this skill, summarize complex topics in a single sentence first, then expand only on the components necessary for comprehension. The discipline of prioritization elevates the power of the message. Repetition can reinforce simplicity without redundancy. Key points should appear in different contexts, phrased differently, to enhance retention. For example, when introducing a new sales strategy, present the core concept verbally, follow up with a visual diagram, and recap in a written summary. Each repetition anchors understanding while reinforcing the essential message. This layered approach ensures that the central idea remains prominent, even amid supporting details. Ask yourself, how will the audience act on this information? Simplification is not merely clarity for clarity's sake. It is clarity for action. Every powerful message should create a mental path toward decision or execution. Identify the decisions, steps, or behaviors that the audience must adopt, and emphasize those in communication. For example, instead of overloading employees with technical rationale, distill the message to the required action. Submit weekly reports, using this template to track progress efficiently. Action-oriented simplicity purposes eliminate ambiguity through precise definitions. Many complex ideas falter because key terms are interpreted differently by different people. Define the core concepts in simple, unambiguous language before expanding. For instance, if discussing customer engagement, specify whether it refers to emails opened, meetings scheduled, or sales conversions. Clear definitions prevent misalignment and reduce friction, making the message more actionable and powerful. Analogical layering enhances comprehension. Once the primary metaphor or story is introduced, layer supporting examples or sub-analogies that reinforce the main idea. This method builds depth without overwhelming the audience. Each layer must be concise, directly connected to the central message, and easily digestible. Avoid digression or excessive technicality that obscures the primary point. Effective leaders use this layered approach to present sophisticated strategies in ways that feel intuitive and natural. Pauses and pacing reinforce simplified messages. Giving the audience time to absorb each key point ensures retention and reduces cognitive overload. Pause after stating a crucial principle. Allow a moment for reflection, and then proceed to supporting information or action steps. Pacing ensures that even intricate ideas are processed fully, increasing the likelihood of comprehension and follow-through. Feedback loop strengthens simplification. After presenting a complex concept, confirm understanding by asking targeted questions or encouraging the audience to summarize in their own words. Misunderstandings reveal where clarity needs improvement and provide opportunities to refine messaging. A leader who iterates on feedback ensures that every complex idea eventually becomes accessible and actionable. Confidence in delivery magnifies impact. When ideas are expressed with certainty and coherence, audiences trust the clarity of the message and are more likely to engage with it effectively. Hesitation or overqualification undermines even the most carefully simplified communication. Practice articulating essential points with conviction, trimming any unnecessary words that dilute the message. Confidence paired with clarity turns complexity into compelling guidance. Finally, simplification requires discipline and iteration. Complex ideas resist reduction without careful thought. Leaders who practice distillation, prioritize relevance, and focus on actionable clarity develop a habit of producing messages that resonate immediately. Simplified messages empower teams, accelerate decisions, and enhance influence, transforming abstract, intricate concepts into tools for practical impact. By mastering the art of reducing complexity without losing essence, leaders ensure that their ideas are understood, remembered, and applied consistently. The ability to convert complicated thought into powerful simplicity is transformative. It bridges knowledge with action, connects vision with execution, and transforms information into influence. Leaders who consistently simplify ideas create environments where understanding is immediate, decisions are decisive, and collaboration is seamless. Simplification is not a shortcut. It is the skill of crafting communication that moves minds, hearts, and hands toward meaningful results. Number 8. Elevate tone to inspire commitment daily. The way words are delivered often matters as much as the words themselves. Tone is the invisible force that shapes perception, drives engagement, and inspires action. Every sentence carries emotional weight, and the way it is expressed can either energize or demoralize, motivate or discourage. Leaders who elevate their tone consciously create an environment where commitment becomes natural, where ideas are embraced with enthusiasm, and where teams respond with dedication. Elevating tone is not about theatrics. It is about aligning voice, intention, and presence to communicate purpose with resonance and authenticity. Start by recognizing the relationship between tone and emotional connection. Words convey meaning, but tone conveys intent. A flat or monotonous delivery can render even the most compelling message inert. A measured, confident, and dynamic tone signals authority, optimism, and clarity. People subconsciously respond to variations in pitch, rhythm, and emphasis, interpreting these cues as indicators of confidence and commitment. Training awareness of vocal qualities and deliberately adjusting tone transforms everyday communication into a catalyst for engagement. Energy in delivery shapes influence. Enthusiasm is contagious. When a leader speaks with genuine interest, passion, and intensity, it draws listeners in, creating alignment around objectives. This does not mean exaggerating excitement artificially, but finding and communicating authentic conviction. Reflect on what genuinely matters in each interaction, and allow that passion to guide your vocal expression. Energy transmitted through voice fosters commitment because it signals belief in the purpose, motivating others to invest their effort in return. Pacing is critical for inspiring commitment. A hurried tone can create tension, anxiety, or superficial engagement. A deliberate, steady pace conveys thoughtfulness and control, allowing messages to resonate. Strategic pauses emphasize key points, giving listeners space to internalize meaning. When discussing critical tasks, project goals or values, slowing slightly and emphasizing syllables at pivotal moments reinforces importance and encourages reflection. Mastering pacing elevates both comprehension and emotional impact, ensuring that communication inspires action rather than confusion. Volume conveys authority without aggression. A voice that is consistently too soft may be overlooked, while one that is overly loud can provoke resistance or discomfort. Finding the natural volume that projects confidence while remaining approachable is essential. Varying volume intentionally accentuates points of importance, creating a rhythm that draws attention where it matters most. Practice speaking with sufficient projection to command presence, but balance it with modulation to maintain warmth and receptivity. Inflection provides subtle guidance. Rising and falling tones emphasize meaning and signal engagement. A leader's voice that rises slightly at the end of a question encourages dialogue and input, while a controlled downward inflection reinforces conclusions and authority. Inflection shapes perception without adding words. It conveys certainty, enthusiasm, or contemplation naturally. Conscious attention to inflection patterns prevents monotony, maintains listener focus, and subtly inspires alignment with the message being delivered. Consistency of tone builds trust and reliability. Frequent shifts in mood or delivery can confuse audiences and weaken commitment. Establish a baseline tone that communicates credibility, calm, and focus. Deviations from this baseline should be intentional, designed to emphasize particular points or emotions. This creates a sense of stability that allows others to engage confidently, knowing that the message is delivered from a reliable source and is anchored in deliberate expression rather than reactive emotion. Empathy expressed through tone strengthens engagement. Listening and responding with warmth, understanding and appropriate vocal expression fosters connection. People are more likely to commit when they feel heard and respected. Modulating tone to reflect empathy, softening during sensitive discussions, expressing encouragement during challenges, or affirming contributions with genuine warmth creates an atmosphere where commitment flows naturally. Voice becomes a tool not just for instruction but for relationship building and emotional resonance. Storytelling amplifies the impact of elevated tone. Narratives are inherently engaging, but delivery transforms stories into experiences. By varying pace, pitch, volume, and emphasis, leaders make lessons vivid and memorable, highlight moments of tension, achievement, or transformation with subtle tonal shifts to mirror the emotional arc of the story. Listeners not only understand the message intellectually, but experience it emotionally, making commitment more instinctive and durable. Practice telling brief stories with conscious attention to vocal dynamics to create resonance and retention. Repetition combined with tonal emphasis reinforces commitment. Key principles or objectives should be repeated strategically, using vocal variation to highlight importance. A repeated message with monotone delivery loses power. The same words with dynamic tone signal significance and urgency. Use emphasis to draw attention to critical phrases, ensuring that central ideas are internalized and remembered. Tonal consistency in reinforcing key messages builds a shared focus and motivates alignment with objectives. Clarity in diction supports elevated tone. Pronunciation, enunciation, and articulation ensure that every word carries its intended weight. Mumbled or rushed speech diminishes authority and engagement. Clear articulation conveys confidence, competence, and respect for the audience's understanding. Regular practice of vocal exercises, reading aloud, and conscious enunciation develops precision and ensures that tone is complemented by clarity and enhancing credibility and inspiring commitment through intelligibility. Emotional calibration ensures tone aligns with purpose. Match vocal expression to the message being delivered. Delivering critical instructions with warmth and control rather than frustration fosters receptivity. Celebrating achievements with authentic enthusiasm encourages repetition of desired behaviors. Tone must reflect the emotional landscape of the interaction, ensuring that words and vocal expression are aligned. This alignment creates coherence that motivates and inspires, producing commitment naturally rather than forcing it through words alone. Mindfulness strengthens the ability to elevate tone consistently. Being present during conversations allows for conscious control over vocal dynamics and intentional modulation. Awareness of body posture, breathing, and facial expression complements vocal tone, creating a holistic communication style that is compelling and credible. Pausing to breathe and center before speaking in important situations enhances the resonance and authority of tone, increasing influence and commitment. Tone guides perception of urgency and priority. Subtle changes in pitch, pace, and emphasis indicate what matters most. Highlighting critical steps or objectives with intentional vocal variation communicates importance without relying on repetition alone. Listeners perceive the hierarchy of information naturally, allowing them to prioritize actions effectively. This method ensures that essential points are internalized, fostering alignment and timely execution. Confidence expressed through tone inspires commitment. Even the most brilliant ideas falter if delivered with hesitation or uncertainty. A firm, controlled, and deliberate voice conveys conviction, signaling that the speaker believes in the message and its importance. This confidence transfers to listeners, increasing their willingness to follow, support, and act upon the guidance provided. Practice delivering statements of intention with measured certainty to reinforce influence and commitment. Integrating humor and warmth, when appropriate, enhances tone and engagement. A lighthearted inflection or subtle smile can reduce tension, make communication more approachable, and reinforce connection without diminishing authority. Balanced integration of levity into serious discussions increases receptivity and encourages participation, which strengthens commitment by creating a positive emotional association with the message. Feedback and adaptation refine tonal effectiveness. Observing audience reactions provides insights into whether the tone is engaging, motivating, or falling flat. Adjustments in pitch, rhythm, or intensity in real time ensure that communication remains compelling. Leaders who adapt tone dynamically respond to context, increasing clarity, resonance, and commitment. Regularly solicit feedback and self-assess vocal delivery to continuously elevate effectiveness. Finally, elevating tone is a daily practice, not a single skill. Every conversation, briefing, or casual interaction is an opportunity to shape perception, inspire focus, and foster commitment. Tone that is intentional, aligned with purpose, and emotionally calibrated reinforces trust, credibility, and engagement. Leaders who consistently elevate their vocal expression create environments where ideas are embraced, actions are taken with enthusiasm, and commitment becomes habitual rather than coerced. By mastering tone, leaders transform communication into a force that motivates naturally. Every word resonates, every pause underscores intention, and every shift in inflection amplifies meaning. Elevated tone turns ordinary dialogue into an instrument of influence, aligning energy, attention, and action. Daily attention to tone, in combination with clarity, presence, and authenticity, ensures that leadership is experienced not only intellectually, but emotionally, inspiring commitment consistently and powerfully. Number 9. Redirect conversations with calm leadership presence. Conversations often drift, veer off course, or become dominated by tension and emotion. In these moments, a calm leadership presence is the anchor that restores focus, diffuses conflict, and guides the dialogue toward productive outcomes. Redirecting a conversation is not about controlling or silencing others. It is about asserting composure, clarity, and authority in a way that others instinctively follow. Calm presence conveys confidence, signals intentionality, and fosters an environment where ideas are exchanged thoughtfully and decisions are made deliberately. Mastery of this skill transforms interactions into opportunities for clarity, alignment, and progress. Calmness begins internally. Leaders who maintain composure under pressure model behavior that others mirror naturally. Emotional self-regulation is essential. Reactions driven by impulse, frustration, or haste amplify chaos rather than reduce it. Developing awareness of physiological responses, heart rate, breathing, and muscle tension enables leaders to pause before reacting. Techniques such as deep, measured breathing, grounding through posture, or mental reframing help maintain steadiness. A leader's calmness communicates certainty and authority, creating a magnetic effect that draws focus to the conversation rather than the turmoil surrounding it. Listening is the foundation of redirection. A calm leader absorbs information fully before responding, allowing space for understanding rather than interruption. When a conversation is escalating or diverging, attentively hearing each viewpoint creates a sense of respect and validation, reducing defensiveness. This practice involves more than nodding. It requires internal processing, noting key points, and identifying areas that need alignment. Listening before redirecting ensures that interventions are targeted, precise, and received as guidance rather than control, increasing receptivity and cooperation. Strategic pausing reinforces calm authority. Silence is a tool that signals thoughtfulness, not hesitation. When participants speak over one another or drift off topic, a deliberate pause before responding conveys command of the space. The brief stillness allows the group to subconsciously reset, shifting attention from discord to reflection. Pausing provides the leader with time to craft a response that is concise, purposeful, and effective in steering the conversation toward clarity and solution. Redirection begins with clear framing. Calmly restating the purpose of the discussion realigns focus, without creating confrontation. For example, in a meeting where tangents arise, saying, "Let's revisit our goal for this session," which is to finalize the marketing strategy for next quarter, anchors the group in context. Framing shifts attention gently yet decisively, signaling leadership presence while preserving collaborative energy. Effective framing avoids judgment or criticism, focusing instead on shared objectives and priorities. Questions can guide the conversation subtly yet powerfully. Open-ended inquiries redirect focus while encouraging reflection and engagement. For example, asking, "How does this suggestion align with our primary objective?" shifts attention from side debates to alignment with purpose. Questions framed with calmness, curiosity, and neutrality empower participants to self-correct without feeling coerced. This technique cultivates a culture of thoughtful dialogue, where the leader guides with influence rather than force. Tone and vocal modulation are critical components of calm leadership presence. A steady, measured voice communicates control and reassurance. Rapid, high-pitched, or clipped speech can heighten tension, while monotone delivery may be perceived as disengagement. Dynamic but controlled inflection conveys both authority and attentiveness. Leaders who adjust tone intentionally can guide energy in a room, slowing heated debates, emphasizing key points, and signaling transitions between topics. Consistency in tone reinforces perception of stability and trustworthiness. Body language amplifies redirection. Posture, gestures, and facial expressions communicate composure and command, standing or sitting with grounded stability, making measured eye contact, and using open intentional gestures project authority and attentiveness. Nonverbal cues often set the tone for interactions more powerfully than words. A calm, poised presence reassures participants, encouraging them to match the leader's energy rather than escalate tension. Awareness and refinement of these signals are critical in cultivating influence without force. Clarity in speech is essential for guiding conversations. Direct, concise statements cut through noise, eliminating confusion. Ambiguous or meandering explanations dilute influence and invite further tangents. When redirecting, clearly articulate the point of focus, the rationale behind it, and the desired next step. For instance, we need to prioritize client feedback to adjust our approach before finaling the design. Let's identify the top 3 priorities now. Conveys context, importance, and actionable guidance without judgment. Precision in language strengthens authority and inspires adherence. Empathy strengthens the effectiveness of redirection. Recognizing emotions in the room and responding with understanding builds rapport while maintaining authority. Calm leaders acknowledge perspectives without endorsing distractions, creating a balance between validation and focus. Statements like, "I understand these points are important, and we will address them after finalizing our current priorities," integrate empathy with structure. This approach preserves morale, encourages cooperation, and redirects energy toward productive outcomes. Narrative techniques can help shape conversations subtly. Framing discussions as a progression or story enables natural redirection. For example, "We have explored several ideas. Now let's move to the next phase," where we focus on implementation, signals transition while maintaining engagement. Story-driven guidance creates a rhythm and dialogue, where participants follow a logical path, reducing resistance and enhancing receptivity. Effective leaders use narrative cues to structure discussions without rigid control. Repetition of core objectives reinforces direction. In complex or contentious discussions, gently reiterating priorities and goals keeps attention aligned. Repeat key points in different ways to reinforce comprehension and commitment. Doing so calmly avoids irritation and subtly reorients participants toward the shared mission. This repetition, combined with composure, ensures focus remains on outcomes rather than distraction. Anticipating potential derailments enhances redirection. Skilled leaders foresee where discussions may drift or escalate and prepare interventions in advance. Awareness of sensitive topics, conflicting interests, or emotional triggers allows for preemptive framing or questioning to maintain productive flow. Preparedness strengthens confidence and presence, enabling leaders to respond without reactive tension, keeping the conversation constructive and on course. Feedback mechanisms reinforce alignment. Summarizing key decisions and next steps during or at the end of discussions ensures clarity and commitment. Calmly restating agreements consolidates focus and minimizes confusion or drift afterward. This practice signals attention to detail and reinforces credibility, demonstrating that the conversation has been guided purposefully rather than left to chance. Consistency and presence develops trust. Participants internalize the leader's energy, style, and response patterns, regularly demonstrating calmness, attentiveness, and purposeful guidance fosters predictability in interactions. Over time, this consistency makes future redirection effortless as teams instinctively align with the leader's composed approach. The perception of reliability increases influence, creating a culture where focus and outcomes are prioritized naturally. Adaptability enhances the impact of calm redirection. Each conversation is unique, requiring subtle adjustments in tone, pace, and approach. Observing cues such as body language, facial expressions, and energy levels allows leaders to modify interventions dynamically. This flexibility ensures that guidance resonates across different contexts and personalities, sustaining authority without rigidity. Finally, calm leadership presence transforms interactions into structured, purposeful exchanges. By combining composure, clarity, empathy, and anticipation, leaders redirect the conversations seamlessly, transforming potential chaos into constructive dialogue. Every pause, question, or reframe statement reinforces focus and cultivates a culture of respect, reflection, and alignment. Redirection with calm authority is not about dominance. It is about guiding energy, attention, and intention toward meaningful outcomes. Mastering this skill requires deliberate practice, mindfulness, and reflection. Leaders who consistently maintain calm presence and redirect conversations effectively create environments where ideas flourish, decisions are clear, and collaboration thrives. The influence of such presence extends beyond individual interactions, shaping team culture, fostering trust, and elevating collective performance. Calm leadership presence is the silent force that ensures dialogue drives action, focus, and success in every setting. Number 10. Deliver feedback that strengthens team performance. Effective feedback is not merely an evaluation of performance. It is a tool to elevate capability, enhance collaboration, and cultivate a culture of excellence. Delivered thoughtfully, feedback motivates, inspires accountability, and provides a clear pathway for growth. Leaders who master this skill understand that feedback is an instrument for building strength, not assigning blame. The goal is to empower the team, reinforce behaviors that drive success, and correct misalignment without diminishing confidence or morale. Every interaction that involves feedback is an opportunity to deepen understanding, increase engagement, and foster high performance consistently. The first principle of impactful feedback is clarity. Vague statements, such as, "do better," or "this isn't working," leave recipients unsure of expectations or corrective measures. Precise communication identifies the behavior or result being addressed and provides actionable guidance. For example, saying, "Your report included detailed analysis but lacked a summary of key insights. Please add a one-page executive summary by Friday," conveys both observation and expectation. Clear, concrete feedback removes ambiguity, enabling immediate and meaningful adjustment. Timeliness amplifies effectiveness. Feedback is most powerful when it is provided close to the observed behavior. Delays dilute impact, reduce relevance, and allow unproductive patterns to persist. Address issues promptly while highlighting positive actions in real time. Similarly, timely praise reinforces desirable behavior immediately, increasing the likelihood it will continue. Establishing a habit of frequent, prompt feedback creates a culture where improvement and recognition become an ongoing process rather than occasional events. Balance between positive and corrective feedback is critical. Overemphasis on faults erodes morale, while excessive praise without guidance fosters complacency. Effective leaders integrate constructive guidance with acknowledgement of achievements. Recognizing strengths before addressing areas for improvement establishes trust and receptivity. For instance, beginning with, "Your presentation demonstrated thorough research and clear visuals," and to strengthen impact further, consider highlighting the 3 main takeaways at the start, blends affirmation with actionable advice. This approach nurtures confidence while driving performance. Context matters in every feedback interaction. Understanding the individual's role, capabilities, and constraints ensures feedback is relevant and practical. Tailor messages to align with responsibilities and existing workload, and avoid generic statements that may be misinterpreted. By framing feedback within context, leaders communicate understanding and support, increasing the likelihood of engagement and adherence. Effective context ensures that feedback is perceived as guidance rather than criticism. Active listening enhances the feedback process. Before offering guidance, seek to understand the individual's perspective, challenges, and motivations. Listening demonstrates respect, uncovers root causes of performance gaps, and provides information to deliver more effective recommendations. Engaging in dialogue rather than monologue transforms feedback from directive instruction into collaborative problem-solving, fostering ownership and accountability. When team members feel heard, they are more likely to internalize and act on suggestions. Language choice shapes perception and receptivity. Neutral, constructive phrasing avoids defensiveness and emphasizes growth. Replace judgmental or accusatory words with objective descriptions and forward-focused guidance. For example, instead of stating, "You failed to meet the deadline," frame it as, "The project was submitted after the deadline, which affected the timeline. Let's discuss how to manage similar tasks to ensure on-time delivery in the future." This phrasing communicates facts, explains impact, and promotes actionable improvement. Consistency in feedback reinforces standards and expectations. Teams perform best when they understand that guidance is steady, predictable, and aligned with organizational objectives. Inconsistent feedback breeds confusion, reduces accountability, and undermines authority. Establish clear performance criteria and refer back to them regularly in feedback sessions. When everyone understands the metrics and expectations, feedback is interpreted as fair, objective, and constructive rather than arbitrary. Constructive feedback emphasizes solutions and development. Identify specific steps or strategies that guide improvement rather than merely highlighting errors. For instance, instead of simply noting gaps in communication, suggest actionable approaches. When preparing emails, summarize key points at the top and use bullet points for clarity. This will help the team respond faster and reduce miscommunication. Providing actionable recommendations transforms feedback into a practical roadmap for success. Observing and reinforcing patterns is essential. Feedback should not focus solely on isolated incidents, but on behaviors and trends that influence performance. Identify recurring strengths and weaknesses, and provide insights that help team members understand their impact over time. Highlighting patterns encourages reflection, self-awareness, and proactive adjustment, strengthening performance in the long term. Emotional intelligence is crucial in delivering feedback that motivates. Recognize and manage your own emotional state to communicate calmly and constructively, even when addressing underperformance. Simultaneously, gauge the emotional response of the recipient and adapt tone, pacing, and phrasing accordingly. Balancing honesty with empathy ensures that feedback is received as guidance rather than judgment, increasing the likelihood of commitment and behavioral change. Engagement through dialogue promotes ownership. Encourage team members to reflect on feedback, ask questions, and propose solutions. Interactive discussions create mutual understanding and increase accountability. For example, after providing feedback, ask, "What approaches do you think would help you improve this process?" This invites collaboration, strengthens problem-solving skills, and fosters a sense of responsibility for implementing changes. Nonverbal communication amplifies feedback. Facial expressions, posture, eye contact, and gestures influence how messages are received. Open, approachable body language coupled with attentive listening reinforces that feedback is intended to guide and support, rather than criticize or intimidate. Nonverbal cues enhance trust and receptivity, making feedback more effective and strengthening team cohesion. Follow-up is integral to reinforcing feedback. One conversation is rarely sufficient to ensure sustained improvement. Schedule periodic check-ins to review progress, acknowledge growth, and provide additional guidance. Consistent follow-up signals commitment to development, reinforces accountability, and demonstrates that feedback is not a fleeting comment, but a structured part of professional growth. This continuity strengthens both performance and confidence. Encouraging self-assessment, compliments, external feedback, asking team members to reflect on their own performance, develops critical thinking, self-awareness, and intrinsic motivation. Statements like, "How do you feel about your progress on this project?" or "What aspects do you think went well and where could improvements be made?" Empower individuals to take ownership of development, fostering a proactive approach to performance enhancement. Recognizing incremental progress motivates sustained effort. Effective feedback highlights not only ultimate outcomes but also the steps taken toward improvement. Acknowledging small, measurable gains reinforces behaviors that lead to success and demonstrates that the leader is attentive and invested in individual growth. Celebrating milestones nurtures engagement and encourages continual learning. Transparency and purpose builds trust. Clearly communicate the intent behind feedback to strengthen skills, improve results, and support growth. When individuals understand that feedback is designed to enable success rather than criticize, they are more receptive and motivated to act. Framing feedback as a partnership in development fosters collaboration and reinforces team cohesion. Finally, delivering feedback that strengthens team performance requires deliberate practice, mindfulness, and consistency. Leaders who integrate clarity, timeliness, empathy, and actionable guidance cultivate an environment of continuous improvement. Feedback becomes not a moment of critique, but a process of empowerment, driving accountability, enhancing collaboration, and elevating collective results. Each conversation strengthens alignment, reinforces standards, and inspires a culture of high performance that endures beyond individual interactions. Feedback, when delivered thoughtfully, transforms potential into achievement. It is the vehicle through which knowledge is transferred, skills are honed, and confidence is built. Leaders who master this art create teams that are resilient, motivated, and capable of exceeding expectations. By delivering feedback with precision, empathy, and actionable insight, every interaction becomes a catalyst for growth, reinforcing performance, building trust, and ensuring sustainable success.